Hi everybody, I'm Julie Painter. I've been in the ECM industry for 12 years, 10 with the public sector and the last two with ImageSource. Today I'll be demonstrating the ILINX Advanced Report Management, or ILINX ARM as we call it. As Richard mentioned, Oracle 11g has discontinued this cold capability and will now require a third-party application moving forward. What is great about ILINX is all the products in the suite work together seamlessly. And in this demo, you'll see how beautifully ILINX ARM, Import, and Content Store work together in concentration. Next slide, please. So some of the additional value that you get from ARM is you get to unlock the valuable enterprise information that's currently locked up in your print streams. And you can make this information available across the organization via several different content management systems like ILINX Content Store, Capture, SharePoint, Oracle, IBM, etc. You get the increased findability, reuse, and security of this application. Plus, you can use graphic overlays to recreate the exact same document that the customer received in the mail. So, for instance, if you have an invoice, you can place that invoice overlay over your data and make it look exactly the same as what they received in the mail. Next slide, please. So ARM is better than IPM Cold for these reasons. We have 12 input formats, including ASCII, PDF, ASP, Metacode, PCL, several IBM and Xerox formats, whereas IPM only had the ASCII input. And our outputs are to standard multi-page documents, including PDF, TIFFs, text files, HTML, XML, and others for consumption by any content management system, whereas IPM stored only internal proprietary storage format files. ARM gives you more robust separation and extraction rules and capabilities. It has advanced graphic overlays and watermarks that I was just talking about. And also we get sophisticated scheduling, auditing, and alerting capabilities within our ILINX suite. And, of course, it's a go-forward product. IPM reaches the end of life this December. So with that, we'll move right on into the demonstration, and Kim is going to pass over control, and I'm going to show you a demo of what ILINX ARM looks like. So I always like to start by looking at a diagram. You know, I'm a picture person. And so I created a picture of the ILINX ARM suite and how I'm going to be showing it to you today. I'm basically going to be showing you three applications. I'm going to be showing you the ARM Job Setup application, ARM Visual Studio, and the ARM Conversion Report application, which runs in concert with ILINX Import. And then also I'm going to be showing you, besides ILINX Import, ILINX Content Store as our back-end repository. So we'll start with this first column right here. We'll have a sample report as our input, and then we'll use the ARM Job Setup application to create configurations specifying page width, page height, what type of output we want, what kind of input it is, all those sorts of things. And then what we'll get out of that will be a configuration file which we'll be able to use in our next steps. So let's go ahead and we'll look at our sample report here. I have just a fake sample report, payroll report from ImageSource, and as you can see, it's just a text file, and the page width looks kind of wide, and the page height, it looks kind of short, and it's just a short report. It's just a 5-page report. So we're going to use the ILINX ARM suite to go ahead and create a PDF of this report and then push it into Content Store. So we'll start by going into the ARM Job Setup application, and I've already got a sample configuration file already configured, so I'll go ahead and I'll drag that over to our ARM Job Setup application. And as you can see, it populated several different values. And here, this is where we can specify our input type. As I mentioned earlier, ARM has the capability of using all these different input types, but the one that we're going to be talking about today is ASCII. But if you have some of these other ones, then it does have the capability of processing those. So we'll start by looking at this settings, the line data options, and what this is really talking about is what does our report file format look like that we're going to be importing. So this is where we can specify different things. You know, as I mentioned, the report looks like it was fairly wide and fairly short. So I'm going to specify this in landscape view right here, 11 inches wide by 8.5 inches high. Some of the other capabilities that we have in this window is specifying how many lines per inch we have on our page and how many lines per page that we have. Next, we'll look at the Output Settings tab, and this is where we can specify what output we want our report to be. Again, it has text, HTML, TIFF, XML, but we're going to be looking at PDF today. So within this PDF tab, we have a whole bunch of different options. This right here allows us to specify what Adobe capability, compatibility that it has. 1.7 equates to Acrobat X, but if you go back here, you can go all the way back down to Acrobat 1.3 if you need to. Here's where you can do some compression on your image, and here's where you can actually add in the overlay that I was talking about. For this example, I have just a real simple ImageSource logo that we're going to be dropping on the top left corner of our report that we can specify the coordinates via pixels. So in this next tab, we have different things, different features, like, for instance, what if you have a really large report, and let's say 10,000 pages, and you wanted to be able to break it up certain number of pages per file. So this allows you to say, oh, I only want 1,000 pages per file, and I only want one file per directory. This option allows you to specify, oh, if I only want pages 10 through 20, I can specify that there. And finally, in this Advanced Settings tab, we have the capability of configuring our index output. So for our purposes today, we're going to use the comma-separated value format. We're going to have one index file per report. We're going to use the pipe as the separation character between our indexes, and we're going to name our indexing file with the .idx extension. So that's pretty much it for the job setup application, and the output we get is this sample ini file. And in it, you can see it stores all the different values there, and if you need to go in there and tweak things, you can. But let's go back and look at our Visio diagram. So now we've got our report configuration file, and we're going to use that as our input into the next stage of our solution here in the Visual Studio application. And what the Visual Studio application allows us to do is it allows us to define extraction rules for the data, the indexing data that we want to pick up off the report. And the output for that is also some indexing values that get stored in an indexing file. So let's go ahead and open up our Visual Studio application. And I'll just go ahead, and how you open this is you drag and drop your sample ini file in there, and it just opens right up. And as you can see, we have three different window panes right here. This first window pane is called our workspace pane, and this contains the indexes that will be output into our indexing file. The second pane right here is called the original bitmap pane, and this is what our actual report looks like when we view it. And so this is kind of helpful to see, okay, did I get the width and the height correct? And yes, it does look like the width and the height is correct on that, on the input of that. And this pane right here is called the document window, and this is how we define our extraction rules. So talking about extraction rules, here's the extraction rules window. And as you can see, we got a couple of things in here called trigger sets. And what a trigger set actually is just a container for a set of rules. The page anchor, or an anchor, is what we actually use to tell the software that, hey, on this particular page, I want to capture some indexing fields. So we need to find something unique on that page to tell the software to stop. This is the page that we want to pull some indexing fields off of. And so in this particular case, I've defined page number 1 as our anchor. And then as you can see, I've also got a couple of other fields right here. I've got report name, so that's going to be the name of our report, which in this case is payroll. I've got report date, which is the date that it was created. And then I have another trigger set here with another value. And as you can see, we've got this pink highlighted thing that goes all the way down the page. And if you go to the very end of the page, what it's actually looking for is the grand total. That's going to be the field that we want to actually look for what the total is. And so we've defined our trigger to look for all the way down the report till it finds this value, and then it picks up the total over here on the right-hand column. So let's say that we have a new requirement, and our new requirement is that we need to pick up the system field in at the very beginning of our report. So let's say that our new requirement is we now need to know what system is actually producing this report. So it's really super simple. All you have to do is you highlight it and you drag and drop it on top of the area and fields table that you want to specify it in, and then you give it a unique name. So in this case, we're going to say system. And then over here, this is where the indexes are stored that we will have in our output of our indexing file. And as you can see, we don't have our new field there, so what we're going to do is we're going to drag and drop it right on top of our indexes, and it put it in the right space. I want to have it as the third value down there. And now we can tell ILINX Visual Studio to go ahead and view what our indexing results were going to be. So it went and read our report, and it picked up, oh yes, this is the report name. It picked up payroll, it picked up the report date, and I actually have some rules defined to switch the dash character to a slash, which is kind of a handy little feature that we have. And then it also picked up our new field of payroll system. But as you can see, it didn't pick up the grand total, and the reason why is because we're on page 1. The grand total field is actually on page 5, so when I move over to page 5, it actually finds that. So we'll go ahead and we'll save our values and go ahead and we'll close out of Visual Studio. And we'll come back over to our Visio diagram. And now is where we get to actually create our report. So we have our input file, which is the report that we looked at, and now we have our configurations all set up. And we're going to use the magic of ILINX Import to be able to leverage some really cool capabilities, like being able to do scheduling, store a copy of the original report in an archive folder, and keep track of it and delete it upon the times that we specify, the dates that we specify. We can also store a copy of the report in an error folder and send us an email in case anything wrong happens. So, and then the output of that is going to be our report in a PDF format along with our indexing file. So we're going to go ahead and look at that today. We'll bring up ILINX Import, and as you can see, I have 2 jobs defined here. One is for the ARM, and another is for Content Store. So we'll go ahead and we'll look at the ARM test jobs first. And as you can see here, I've got the incoming report is just our text file of our report on the file system, and the output will be the report PDF plus an indexing file. So that's what we're going to specify here. Up here is where some of those really cool capabilities that I was mentioning about scheduling, where you can specify a schedule for running on certain days or between certain times. So that's a real handy feature to have. And then also here's where I was talking about an email. We can specify upon error to send us an email, or if the job becomes disabled. So those are some really handy features. But we're going to go ahead and move to the next screen over here. And this is where we specify where the report's actually going to be when we need to look for it. So I've created a folder called Report Input, and I've created a folder called Report Archive for where we want the software to store the copy of the original report where it comes in. And then here's an error folder where we want to store any errors that happen, store the copies of the report, and a temporary working folder. So here's where we tell the software, the import software, how to find the reports that we're looking for. And in this particular case, I'm using the wildcard character of an asterisk followed by the .rpt file extension, because that's what the name of our sample report is. It's just sample.rpt. And here's where the cold configuration comes in. As you can see, this is the ILINX ARM conversion application. We're going to convert it to a PDF, so that's where we specify the name of the executable. We can also choose a TIFF or the XML job or one of the other output file formats, but for today we're using the PDF. And, of course, any file that contains all of our report configurations. And, of course, here's where we want the sample PDF report to end up, as in this report success folder. And that's pretty much it for ILINX Import. So we'll go ahead and we'll go to our input folder, and I already have a sample report in there. So we'll go ahead and we'll enable our job. And this can take up to 30 seconds for the software to pull the folder and for it actually to pick up the file and process it. But one of the other cool features I wanted to show you is this log file directory. So if you do have any errors, all you need to do is click this open button, and it opens up right to the log file folder and allows you to look at the actual logs for import. And as you can see, for today I have a bunch of polling information, and then if we scroll all the way down, you can see that it actually processed the job that we just enabled. So we'll go out and we'll look at our file. And here's our files. We have the PDF of the report. You can see that it put the ImageSource logo right in the upper hand left corner of the file that we specified. And the page width and page height looks correct, and we'll look at all 5 pages, and that looks good. Today I'm using a sample license, so if you actually purchase a license from us, you won't see this demo stamped on your images, of course. But for today, that's what we're using, so that's what you'll see. Next, we'll look at our indexing file, and as you can see, we've got the name of our report right here, the report name, which is payroll, the report date. Here's our new system field and our grand total, and these are separated by the pipe character that we specified in the ARM Job Setup application. So let's go ahead and we'll look back at our diagram. And so now we have our report created along with our indexing file, but we got to actually push that into our back-end repository. So here's where we're going to leverage import again to push it into Content Store. So let's go ahead and we're going to take a look at Content Store. And I already have a sample application set up for payroll report, but we need to add in our new system field. So I'll go ahead and hit Edit, and then click the Add button and type in System. And text is fine, but if we had some other different data type, we could have chosen that. But you can see it's the 4th field down, and I want it to be the 3rd field, so I'll go ahead and say Move Up, and I'll save it, and there we go. We've just now added a new indexing field to our Content Store application. And now we'll go into import, and we'll look at our import job that actually takes our two files and pushes them into Content Store. So if you see here, we've got another job set up, and this one has our report file along with the indexing file, and it's going to push it into Content Store. And our folder is now going to be the report success folder, but I left these the same. And it's looking for, again, the wildcard character of an asterisk followed by the IDX file format that we specified. And here's where it actually connects up with Content Store to find out what the indexing values are in our payroll report. So as you can see, it already found the system field that we just now specified, but we have to map that data from our indexing file. So we'll go ahead and we'll select our indexing file, and we'll go ahead and we'll add in our fields and our report total. So now we have report name, payroll, report date, payroll system, and our report total along with the file name. So go ahead and say next and finish. And the job's all ready to run, so we'll go ahead and enable it. And again, it takes up to 30 seconds to run, but we'll go ahead and bring up our Content Store application. And one of the things that I like about our products, Capture and Content Store, is that they run within the browser. They're used by technology called XBAP. So it gives you the rich kind of features of using a Windows app, but it allows you such easy deployment. Like, for instance, I used to have to go around and install Kofax on a whole bunch of machines every time we did an upgrade or had a new machine. But with this system, all we have is just a URL that we have to give to the user. It surely makes deployment a lot easier. So if we look back over here, our reports got processed, and if we do a quick search, here's our report date, our new field, and our total. And if we double-click it, you can see it's displayed here, and we've got our logo up in the upper hand left corner, and we've got all of our pages, and it looks great, as usual. So that concludes our ARM demo today.